What's up, guys? Adel here. It's your boy with Traders Brawl in collaboration with Web3 TV. Coming at you live. We are hosting another podcast with a new guest, CJ, or Shift with CJ.
CJ's better.
CJ, yeah, absolutely. And this podcast is designed to talk about businesses, talk about Web3, crypto as well, but mainly business and how people work and how they become successful. Share their success stories, where they started from, where they are now, where they plan to go forward. This is an educational podcast, so yeah, let's put our hands together for our new guest.
Thank
CJ.
you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
CJ, let's start by, what does CJ actually stand for?
It stands for Chiranjeev. Funny story. I grew up here in UAE. I had friends from all over the world, and every time I would tell them, hey, they would be like, hey, what's your name? I'm like, Chiranjeev. They're like, Chiran, what? And I heard this so many times. I'm like, damn, there must be an easy way to do it. So I named myself, by myself, CJ.
CJ.
So, Chiranjeev.
Okay, no, I love it.
Yeah.
And I have to ask, what is that necklace you're wearing? Or that device?
Okay, so this device, you can safely call it a biohack.
Okay.
It's called the Happy device. And what it does is, as humans, you eat something, and then the chemical goes inside you, and your cells react to the chemical. Think of caffeine.
Right.
You drink coffee, caffeine goes into your blood, it attaches to cell surface receptors, and then you have a reaction. If I give you an electric shock, you will also have a reaction, because now the electricity travels into your cells, it excites it, and then you have a certain thing. But one of the things a lot of people, or we've lost over a lot of generations, it's magnetic fields. So humans react to magnetic fields. Birds migrate long distances, thousands and thousands of kilometers, using the magnetic fields of the planet. So this right here, it generates a magnetic field, and I can program that magnetic field to have a coffee. So basically what it does is it copies the chemical signature and the magnetic imprint of a substance like caffeine, alcohol, CBD, L-theanine, chocolate, cacao, whatever. And all of those things have a certain impact on your body. So for everyone who's listening, the easy thing is, imagine a situation where you had to work really late at night. But then if you drink coffee or caffeine, that might spoil your sleep. But with this, I can switch on the caffeine mode and then switch it off, and then the effects go away. So the effects will only be in my body as long as this device is on and it's creating that magnetic bubble.
I see, and you can just turn it on and off anytime.
Yeah, and you can program it through your phone. There's an app, you can select either a compound or a state. So right now I wanted to be in a very happy state, relaxed state, so I programmed it that way.
Oh, and you really feel it?
Yeah, it takes you about a week for you to kind of get your body recalibrated to your magnetic receptors. Okay. And then once you do, some people feel it, some people feel it even more, some people don't feel it at all.
I see.
I feel it.
You definitely feel it. And you feel like a booster as well, like it acts as a boost?
Yeah, it does. But we have to change our frame of reference to most boosters, because everyone who's listening to this, they might think of a booster like a caffeine or
pre-workout.
Yeah, pre-workout, right?
Me.
Classic. But it's not like that. Yeah. It's more like, oh, okay, perfect. I can understand things better. My verbal fluency is much better. If I focus on something and there are other distracting things going on in the environment, I can keep my focus for a few more seconds, which is good, because right now our attention span is lesser than a goldfish, right? So, if you can give it a few more seconds, I always say this, if you have the right amount of attention, then any door of the universe will open for you. So it's all about attention, which in our schooling system, in lots of things, and even in business, right? Like you have a business goal, you want to crush your end of term results or quarter results. Unless and until you have the right kind of focus and attention to go at it, it's not going to happen. And that's what people lack. Distractions come in. You can't be attentive for some time. Someone pisses
Notification
you off.
On your phone.
Exactly.
No, well said. No, let's take it back to introductions, because I met you initially at the World Biohack Summit.
Yes.
Which you co-organized.
Yes.
That's right. And it was a biohack summit. And for those who don't know what biohack is, I would love for you to define that. But firstly, define, who are you?
Oh, I'm just a seeker, a curious soul navigating this planet. Okay. And I'll say my backstory, and then we can get to the World Biohack Summit. So imagine a timeline. About 15 or 18 years ago, I was super obese. I was fat.
Really?
I was.
Do you have pictures?
Yes, I do. I'll share
later
with your audience. Yeah.
Please.
I was obese, fat, always scared of people because you're fat and you're bullied. Like back in the day, I grew up in UAE. There was a culture of bullying, horrible time. Then I was like, man, I've had enough. I need to change this. So I'm like, okay, what can I do to change this? One of the things that I can do to change is like look at what fit people are doing. So I started doing martial arts. Martial arts led to going to the gym, CrossFit, all of that stuff. Long story short, I was at a point, and this is not to boast, but at least I had social media wasn't as strong back then. So at least in the 20 people that I knew, I was the fittest. And I was like, yay, this is a good achievement. And then wanted to get that 6 packs and 8 packs. I went to 3.5% body fat, all natural. And then I realized this is a horrible way of living because, you get depressed, you get emotionally challenged, all of those things come as well because you're sacrificing so much food. So much food, time with your loved ones, social gatherings. Because I'm like, oh, if
do you have a picture of this as well? When you were at 3.5% fat?
Yes.
Wow.
I have a picture and a report. So, then I was like, okay, this is not, and I was always curious about health. From back in the day, we were not even, like Google and stuff wasn't really prevalent, especially in this part of the world. You had these big computers and no one knew how to use them. But I would go to like the back alley bodybuilders and be like, hey guys, I'm a little bit, I want to be like you guys, what can I have? And sometimes they would give me like some pill to try, and some of them, and that's where my early biohacking days, I was like, okay, perfect. If this guy looks so good and he promised, I didn't know about like the whole business and selling people junk and all of that crap. But I started consuming a few things.
Steroids?
Some days it was not steroids, but like simple weight loss pills. Some days I was just in the toilet all the time. It didn't work. Some days 80% of the time it didn't work. But I was like, I was very early to catch on to trends that were going on. Even if it wasn't like super legit, I was like, oh, perfect. I'm not gonna wait for the studies and like, all of these things to come because I'm getting bullied right now. I need to fix myself right now. And if martial arts can do it, if CrossFit can do it, if a pill can do it, if not eating can do it, I'm willing to take that risk. That was where my curiosity and like self-experimentation started. Traveled the world for more than 10 years. Very fascinated by longevity, very fascinated by cultures, very fascinated by ancient wisdom. So traveled the world, went to all these power sites, ancient sites, sometimes with a translator, sometimes just by myself, asking old guys in their 80s like, hey, what's the secret to life and why are you so happy? And I was trying to figure out the soft side of things. Then, I had the fitness part. I got some ancient wisdom sort of a thing. And I went out to people and I was like, hey guys, I think you should, all the friends and all the family members who were doing something not appropriate, I was like, I think you should do it this way. And they're like, where's the science? I'm like, oh my God, because I didn't nail this science piece. Then I started going around the world for a lot of scientific conferences, doctors, and I would tell them the same thing. I was like, guys, listen, here's what this is like, all these generations of people are doing this. And for the first time in my life, someone explained the science to me. They're like, oh yeah, that happens because of blah, 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 scientific thing. And now I'm like, oh, now I can tell those guys who were telling me, this doesn't make sense. And when I did that, people started taking me more seriously. And I was like, okay, if science is the language of making unknown known, then why don't I study this? Then I started learning a lot of, molecular biology, sciences, all that stuff. And now I've tried to combine all of these things together into a very easy concept called biohacking. So what biohacking is simply taking control of your biology, because your biology is 100%, your life, your biology, everything that happens to you is your responsibility. So addressing that, taking charge of it, saying that, okay, perfect, this is not happening to me because of X, Y, and Z. It's happening to me because somewhere or the other, I took a certain decision which led to this, or I did not take a decision which led to something like this. Now, what do? If I'm the centerpiece, so let me take let me make something better out of it. You can look at science, you can go talk to elders, you can listen to podcasts, and then you start fixing things around you. This could be your environment, this could be your food. Like you start a new diet plan and like a recovery routine. This could be a biohack. So the definition of biohacking is to change the environment inside you and outside you so you can take control of your full biology, because that's your right.
Brilliant.
Your biology shouldn't be, there shouldn't be a doctor telling you how you should feel or you shouldn't feel. Because if you're 30 and you want to feel like 20, you should. And if you're 50, you want to feel like 20, it's doable.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that definition. I want to slow down. What did you study in school?
Oh, I studied, university, I studied marketing and advertising.
Okay. And so this is what you're doing right now with the podcast and telling people, educating people is right down your alley.
Yes. So it was, educating people is more of a passion because I was struggling to get information. I failed 90% of the times, and maybe my success rate in life has only been 10% with all the experiments that I've done, biohacking that I've done. Why? Because I did not have someone who was telling me like, hey, I tried this and it didn't work. Because we didn't have podcasts before, we didn't have social media channels before, these kind of things weren't spoken about before. So for me, I don't want the younger generation to make the same mistakes that I have done, because I know how bad it feels. I know how frustrated people can get, especially around this weight loss and weight gain kind of a thing. And now when you see like obesity has tripled all over the world, the healthiest of the healthiest nation are now, the average person is putting on weight, and somewhere or the other, I can feel their pain. So this is why I started talking to people. I was like, hey, I did this experiment, N=1 experiment, it worked for me. And I'm not saying that this is what you should do, but it worked for me. And if you would like to try it, whether it's sleeping for 2 hours extra or, going for a 5-kilometer run or lifting a little bit heavy or doing something, it worked out for me and this is what happened. Why don't you try it?
No harm in trying.
No harm in trying it. Experiment.
Right. And following graduation and degrees and everything, did you have a 9-to-5 before any of this? What did you work?
I worked for advertising agencies, I've worked for event agencies. I've been working in events since I was 15 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
But I won't tell you the company. They might get sued.
That's okay.
Child labor.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because can you imagine 15 years old working in an event? But like, not just events company, but I used to give out flyers. I used to go to labor camps and put flyers into people's...
In UAE here?
In UAE, yes.
UAE.
Yeah, in Dubai.
Wow.
Because I used to call people and ask them for surveys. I used to be that odd person in the front of the malls and like, hey, can I get 5 minutes of your time? I didn't have to do it. But at that point, when I was like 15 years old, I'm like, 3 months of summer break. What can I do now? I would love to. I didn't come from a very rich family, or like we were struggling to pay bills and things like that. So I was like, if I could get like 5 dirhams extra, that means like I could go buy some rotis and stuff with my friends and get like a 7-Up. Right. And that was like the motivation. It's like, okay,
food.
If I go home, I might just get 1 dirham. And if I can get 5 or 10 dirhams, at that time, we used to get 7 dirhams per survey, which was a 45-page survey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
45 page.
45 pages, because officially I was not supposed to be there. And now I went around Media City and I was knocking on doors and I was like, hey, I've got 3 months off. I'm a student. Can I please work for you?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, opportunity. Let's abuse this guy.
Look at you. You're a hacker already at 15.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, and at that time, trust me, there was no YouTube, there was nothing. It was more like, okay, I want more out of life.
Yeah.
Is this it? Like go to school and come back and that's it? The entrepreneurial mindset, I didn't really have an entrepreneurial mindset, but I was just like, it's fun. Let's, what are you gonna do on the streets, play football? Like, okay, let's try.
And afterwards, what next,
Yeah, that's it.
You're right, no. And now following, fast forwarding to now, at the World Biohack Summit, which was just last...
It was in May.
It was in May.
Yeah.
It was last May, 2023. You gave a panel speech, didn't you, or a keynote? I
did a keynote and I did a panel interview
as well. Yeah. We talked. I watched you. I saw, and I was intrigued by when you said today just now about you're responsible for your body, for the biology of your body.
Yeah.
Now, one way of maybe playing devil's advocate here is, how would you respond to someone who said, all the harmful metals that are around you, all the harmful radiations around you, how can you take responsibility against all those that are external to you?
So, interesting point. There are 2 angles to look at it, right? So the first angle is your own health angle. if you're aware of certain amounts of metals around you and you know that it is a problem, then the next thing should be that you need to, or here's my approach. If I know that there is a problem, then I know there is a solution. So I would like go look at the solution, and the solution could be not drinking from like not drinking fluoride water, not being in places where the toxic metal load would be high, using certain binders like activated charcoal, bentonite clay, all of these things, using certain supplements, sulfur-based food, which will actively remove those metals and heavy metals from your body, not getting a mercury filling. And these things are in your control. But a lot of the times people would know all the things, but they just don't take some time to investigate, because we as humans, here's a basic concept, right? We talk about longevity, we talk about all these things. But from the minute this podcast has started, you and me are just closer to our death. Death or getting sicker, but like dying is an inevitable part, but most people think other people die and not them. But every second there is about 6 deaths around the world. So right now, every second there are 6 deaths happening. Crazy number, and millions of people losing people. But the thing is, a lot of people take things for granted. So even if your health, your life, that's why I say it's your responsibility, because if you know that something's around, then if you can spend, and now we're in the age of information, you can just put it down to ChatGPT. Hey, I feel like there are metals around me. Can you please tell me like the top 5 things I can do? Just do that. And 100%, it's not like it's going to change completely, but 1% today, 1% tomorrow, 1% every day will make sure it's like it's like business, and it's like your assets and all those things, they compound over a period of time. So all the healthy habits that you do will compound over a period of time. And the second angle to look at it is that us humans, we're just, in the grand scheme of things, we're just one other species. There are millions of species here, but we think we're in the center of everything. There are millions of lives around us, right? And if certain things have happened because of our species, I'm not saying that someone has done something, and for all the bad things people have done, you should take responsibility. But there is some sort of like, it might not have, and this is going back to, I don't want to go into the woo-woo stuff, but like there are, when you look at like ancient teachings, there are cycles of time, there are cycles in our life, there are cycles of things. And sometimes what happens is some person or a group of people, because of their not understanding, like people who've done the heavy metals and stuff, they don't really understand it, but it's a mistake. But it comes down to like human responsibility anyway. Maybe not your side, maybe their side, but at a point it was someone's responsibility. And now there is someone's responsibility. That's why the UN, the functional medicine doctors, all of these guys are trying to find ways to reverse it, because they're like, oh shit, we screwed up. But you know what? We can get back. Here are all the signs. So that's how like that is the context in which I'm saying you should take responsibility.
Being in this podcast studio right now, we've got lights, beaming at us, there's radiation exposure, things like this, and now that's just one occasion. Imagine all the times you're on your phone is next to your ear when you're calling, and all the other times when you're exposed to radiation, exposed to people vaping around you, exposed to metals on, there was the scandal around pans and the metals that made it non-stick, right? Blackwater, the movie. All these things that people may not be aware of. How do you take control of that? And is there a way to avoid this?
There is. So for every problem, there's a solution. I always think for every problem, there's a solution. It's how deep do you want to find the solution? Like if you're seeking for not the truth, but like the solution, how deep do you want to go? How much of time do you have to invest? So there are 2 ways to do it. You can either spend all of your time looking at something and trying to investigate it, or you can hire someone who has been there, who's trying to, that's why you have doctors, that's why you have wellness coaches, fitness coaches, and then you just go and trade your money for some sort of experience or knowledge base that they have, which probably they've failed like 10 times, and they've had like 200 case studies, and then that's one way to kind of like avoid it. But you're right, in today's modern world, testosterone, we were speaking about this offline, testosterone has gone down I think about 50% from 1970s to now. So the average person born today, us, we have like 50% less testosterone than what our great-grandfathers or grandfathers had. And that's crazy, right? Just in like 2 generations, things are going down. What would happen in the future? And it's because of certain environment. And here's something that I got explained by certain cultures. The moment you get away from the fundamental design of life itself, okay? Fundamental design of life is outside when there is sun. You're breathing fresh air. You're next to natural radiation which comes from the planet. These are called native electromagnetic frequencies, which are very coherent with your body, which means being around animals, being around trees, walking on grass, groundings. Every second, there are about 100 lightning strikes to the planet. And these lightning strikes fill the Earth's core with negative electrons. And this is why the popular culture of grounding and earthing, this is so famous, because every time you put your feet or your hands on, like while you're climbing rocks or you're on the beach, your body absorbs these negative electrons and they make you fitter, younger, stronger, healthier. And now, my shoe currently has like a 2-inch sole, rubber sole, so I'm not absorbing any electrons. We're on 30 feet high. The AC is there, so it's cold. We're not breathing the right kind of air ratio. Light's coming from a focused source, not a full spectrum one from the sunlight. By the way, I have blue light blocking glasses, so I protect 75% of myself from these things.
Anti.
Yeah, so it's basically all of this is blue light, which is very, very, Harvard did a big study on it.
Yes.
It's one of the things that will age you the fastest. This is why looking at your laptop or looking at your phone and all of these things,
I've got anti-blue light as well on my glasses. I'm not wearing them right now.
You were wearing them before, right?
I was, yeah.
So, these are, and that's where biohacking comes in, because if you know certain things, maybe you can make the lights a bit dimmer, or, you're on the 30th floor, right? Once a day, you can go downstairs, get some sun, get some nice air, walk around a little bit, walk on soil, touch soil, eat natural food. It's simple. Why? Because this is where we came from. And the more we want to get disconnected from where we came from, and trust me, we took millions of years to get here. According to Charles Darwin, we are on the peak of evolution. Our species right now is on the peak of evolution. Look around you. Do you think people are doing things that are justify this, that they're on the peak of their evolution?
Definitely not. No.
You look at mental health crisis, you can look at common sense not being so common.
Vaping at early ages.
Let's talk about that. Yeah. So vaping, another thing, right? In the 80s and the 90s, companies which were promoting cigarettes because of course financial reasons, they made it look like cigarettes were the most coolest thing on the planet.
And healthy even.
Yeah. You're a man if you smoke. You're a man if you're like riding a horse and smoking and you have the cowboy vibe going on. And then later you find out that it's not the best thing. But now, and vaping is similar. No one's right now you shouldn't be using things like, oh, you're a man, you're too manly or something like this. But again, what happens is that we don't have enough data. Some things that we can talk about is testosterone going down, libido going down, the lack of interest, pheromones changing. These are smells that we don't smell, but like the opposite sex, like a woman would be here, she would, not consciously, but unconsciously, our bodies emit certain kind of smells. And those smells are picked up by the opposite sex, which is the traditional way of finding the right mate. So most of the times when the woman is in their ovulation stage or something like that, then men are more attracted to them. They get paid more at work on certain phases. Because think about this, life is all about cycles. Everything that we know about, right, astronomy, astrology, all of these things, time by itself, time is cyclical. We came out of our mother's cycles. Everything in life is a cycle, but then when you don't respect that cycle, you get away from life. Like simple explanation, how fast does Earth revolve around the sun? How fast does moon revolve? All of these things could be a day, a month, a year. And this is how we know everything. Everything in life is according to a cycle, which is nature's cycles. So the moment you step away from nature's cycles, that's where you get screwed.
That's where you get screwed. Okay, let's talk about this bottle that you brought.
Oh yeah.
What's special about this bottle?
So I think everyone can see it. This is called a hydrogen bottle, to keep that simple. Hydrogen, or molecular hydrogen, it's, if someone ever asks you like what's the smallest thing in the world, it's molecular hydrogen.
Molecular hydrogen.
The smallest particle in the entire known universe is molecular hydrogen. And because it's so small, it's the world's most strongest anti-aging compound. So for example, let's show people this.
Yes.
You press a button, this is just like water we put earlier. And if people can still see inside, these are nano bubbles of hydrogen going in. Do you see those?
Yeah, I do.
So this makes the water super anti-aging. But in many studies done on hydrogen, right now is being investigated for about 212 different disease models in humans and in animals. So same concept applies. Concept of life is concept of life. If it works for you, most likely is going to work for any other life as well. And you know, we've done not like official studies, but like anecdotal studies where, you know, you give a dog or a cat two water bowls, one with hydrogen, one with not. The moment that they try the hydrogen for the first time, 9 times out of 10 or even 10 times out of 10, they always go for the hydrogen because they just know this makes me feel better.
Feel better.
Yeah.
Wow.
It helps you sleep better. It switches on 200 different cytoprotective genes, is one of the only compounds that can actually cross your blood-brain barrier, go to your brain, and then reduce all kind of neuroinflammation. So us being on a podcast, we're stressed out. People doing work, they're stressed out. All of these things are, even listening to a podcast, you're consuming brain energy. Your brain is only, you know, such like 2% of your body's weight, but it consumes 25% of your body's calories. That's massive. It's crazy. And what happens when think about a car. When you're revving the car too much, the engine gets hot, right? It's the same. Your brain is like, gets hot, it gets inflamed. There are neurons that don't work together. Over a period of time, this can result into Alzheimer's or dementia or any other thing. So there are very few compounds. You can do it naturally while sleeping quite a lot. These days it doesn't happen. Very few compounds that can actually cross the blood-brain barrier, go to the brain, and kind of relax that inflammation situation. One of them is molecular hydrogen.
Interesting. So how does it? It's a device that you can buy, and you just pour normal water into it?
It's a device. The device, this is like the upper piece, but the device is here. So all the magic is happening here.
I see.
You press the button, you charge it, and then you just fill regular water. Regular water, and then you press the button, it takes about 5 minutes, and then the water gets saturated or super saturated with hydrogen.
Okay. Can I try it?
Yeah, of course.
Please. Yeah, okay.
Let's see how you feel.
And how long does it take before you feel the effect?
So it depends. You should at least have it for like 3 to 4 days to really feel something. Although if you're super sick, you might even feel it for the first time. If you're super sick or you have allergies, you have some really strong things going on like gut inflammation, stuff like that. Those guys, they're like, oh wow, something, I feel it. It's like, yeah, because you're super sick. The average person doesn't feel so much because hydrogen is odorless, tasteless, so you don't feel much. It feels like a regular water. People who are hypersensitive, they pick it up because we don't really talk about this too much, but it also energizes the water, so it gives water its living properties. There's another whole concept of living water versus dead water. Most of the water that we're having today is dead water. So for a few minutes, it energizes the water, gives it its living properties. So when people consume that, and they can feel the structure change, something's different.
And this has nothing to do with vitamins and minerals?
Nope.
Nothing to do with that?
Nothing.
Wow, okay. A chemical reaction is happening when you drink this, is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
It goes into your gut microbiome is absorbing it. The hydrogen, because it's a gas, at the end of the day it's a gas, being the smallest element in the entire universe, it goes to every part of your body, especially the parts that no vitamin, no mineral, no amino acid can go into mitochondria, the subcellular parts, the electron transport chain, and that's the place where most damage happens. So when you can fix that, that's why people feel crazy energy because it unlocks a side of energy, and they feel super relaxed because we have a misconception that if people are hyper, they have too much energy. No, when people are hyper, and they cannot sleep at night and all those things, there's something really different happening in the cells, and the cells are trying to overcompensate. And this is the person who gets fatigued faster, immunity goes low, they get headaches, they get sinuses, all of these things happen. But in the moment, the person feels like, oh yeah, I can go crush it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And just curious, do doctors recommend this? Is this
in US? Yes.
In the US.
So in US, yes. Here, some functional medicine doctors recommend it. Like I said, it's been investigated for when we first, and full disclosure, this is we produce the hydrogen bottle. When we first started 2 years ago, there were 180 different applications for this, and now it's become 212 or 215, and it's growing. It's constantly growing.
When you say we produce, is this your product?
Yes.
Oh, you produce this as well.
So my company, Biohacking, I have. Yeah, so two companies. One of the companies which manufactures biohacking products. So I'm so passionate about it. I had to just, get into the business side of it.
Right.
So we produce this hydrogen bottles.
I see. And you sell it to doctors, or?
We sell it to doctors. We sell it to clinics. We sell it to wellness centers, gyms, mostly to individuals.
Interesting. No, very interesting. Okay. And now away from the liquid and food, going into the more food side.
Yeah.
We also talked about how some foods, general population may not know of, that their chicken is pumped with carcinogens to make it look bigger and make it sell better. So, are there ways around this? Is vegan the best solution? Is vegetarian and vegan the best solution? Is that even a solution when it's sprayed with pesticides? What is the solution?
The solution is relative to the person. So let's look at it. Let's backtrack it. Chicken, meat, pork, all of these things. Think of it like a business, right? If you started a business with an inventory coming in, but now there is a huge demand, but you cannot sell this inventory. You have to pay for the inventory, and every day you're paying for the inventory, which is the food and all the caring and the facilities, but you cannot make any money out of it until like a year or like 6 months or 9 months. And then after a point, you're just like, oh shit, is there anything that I can do to speed up this sales cycle so that I can get positive cash flow in? This is the traditional mindset, and that's why people pump hormones, because now from the time you're satisfying the demand of your customer, which might be in a traditional organic farming system, might be like a year or like 9 months, but you have to incur all these costs, real estate, electricity, rent, food, all of that stuff. You can actually shortcut it in 3 months by pumping some hormones.
By pumping some hormones into it to make it look bigger.
Exactly, make it actually grow bigger. So in cows, in pigs, they feed them with multiple things, but I know of one called Zerinol.
Zerinol.
Yeah, Zerinol. And what Zerinol does is that it will make the feed or make the animal grow on 20% of the calories. Okay, so you don't even have to feed them so much, because here's cost cutting. We're in the business podcast,
we're in business,
right?
aren't we?
So cost cutting, you don't have to feed the animal. You can only feed it up to 25%. So you're saving 75% of what food goes in, and we're talking in thousands, right? And this animal will become fattier, bigger in the next 2 to 3 months, opposed to like a year. But imagine what those hormones are doing to the animal, and then we eat it, and we get so I like to tell people this: you are not what you eat, you are what you eat. So again, you are not what you eat, you are what you eat. Eats. So which that means is, if you're buying chicken, you're actually, and if it's like CAFO, which is like commercially operated practices, you're going to get all the garbage that they feed them. Chicken are supposed to eat bugs. They're not supposed to eat wheat and grains. Cows are meant to eat grass. They're not meant, and they're supposed to be in sunshine. That's what, converts most of the fat to conjugated linoleic acid, which is very good for humans. But when you do it in like a like a non-ethical way, and on these factories and all of those things.
Where they're all put together in one place.
They're eating each other's shit, and wheat and disorignals and and these are the things that we know of. I'm sure there are like so many things that none of us know about. So that's the problem. So what's the solution? If you are a meat eater, then looking for grass-fed, grass-finished, organic, pasture-raised, where ethically grown meat would be nice. Not to have processed meat is also another thing. We go to the vegan vegetarian piece. I was vegan for 4.5 years. I loved it. I crushed it. I was one of the guys who was like crushing the vegan diet.
In Dubai?
In Dubai, yeah.
Wow.
So this was like in 2017. I quit in 2017 or 18. So I was 4.5 years before the vegan thing became a trend. I was a vegan. But again, it has its downfalls as well. A lot of the crops that we look at, you mentioned pesticides. There's a very big company called Monsanto, and they do this is like 80% of the world. There's a pesticide called glyphosate, and they put this pesticide on all plants, and this, in short, it just makes your
plants grow faster?
It does. So the weeds don't come in, the plants grow faster, but you take all the suffering because those pesticides come into use like Zorinol, they just mess you up. So what's the real answer? I would say I'm fascinated by the blue zones, and when you look at the blue zones, there's always, and I'm honestly, this is what I've been a carnivore, so I've eaten meat for almost a year and nothing else. I've done intermittent fasting, the 1 meal a day diet for a year. I have been vegan, vegetarian, everything. But what I now think is you should have an element of balance in everything.
Of course, moderation in everything.
Yeah, moderation or an element of balance. Too much of something is not that great. It might be good, and the answer sometimes lies in your genes. So you need to look back for thousands and thousands of years. So if I was born in Dubai, but doesn't mean I'm from the UAE. I'm from India, and that's where my people, my great-grandfathers, my whole bloodline, my generation pool or gene pool comes from there. So I need to look at, okay, what did those guys eat?
Right.
Because maybe I don't even have the right enzymes to digest certain things.
Right.
And this is, I'll give you like a simple thing. Simple example. Africans in Africa are really healthy. They eat a lot of things, they're healthy. You take the same group of Africans and you put them into Seattle or you put them into Washington. And then most of them have colon cancers, they're dying out of obesity, cholesterol's high. Why? It's just the environment's changed. They're naturally supposed to be on a certain land eating the food that for millions of years they've been eating. And when they do that, they can eat as much as they want and they're fine. Not as much as they want, but like relatively. They come in, have something else completely gone. You take a group of white people from Norway, and these guys are having like wild caught fish, salmon, all of those things, and you take that same, maybe it's even cold, let's even put them into the same environment. Let's put them into US somewhere like Alaska or Toronto or somewhere where it's cold. But now the food that they're eating doesn't have the natural amounts, or the salmon doesn't have the natural amounts of vitamin D, which is a requirement for people in that region. And now they're falling sick. They have gut issues, all of that stuff. So I would also say, I think Tai Lopez talks about this a lot. You need to reverse engineer onto your genes and see where are your people coming from and what are the traditional kind of diets that they eat, because that will give you some sort of an advantage.
Is there a way you can do that?
Yeah, so you can do genetic testing.
Genetic testing.
And honestly, you can do genetic testing, see where your
How does that work exactly?
So you get a swab and you take a saliva sample, you just take the swab around your mouth and you put it in a container, you send it to the company, they run their algorithms and they tell you a few things. What is good for you, what is not good for you, some food sensitivities. People also get a lot of sensitivities as they age. So sometimes when you're young, you can eat anything and crush it. And then slowly, things start acting up on you. So I would say the best thing to do is how do you feel? It's N equals 1, sorry, it's an N equals 1 experiment. So you need to see what is right for you. If everyone's talking about carnivore and like you're eating steak and then you have meat sweats and you cannot sleep at night. That's not the right thing for you. Or if you're eating vegetables from the influencer saying, oh, vegan diet's amazing, you do it and it's amazing for the first 3 months, you'll feel amazing, you'll lose weight, all of that stuff, then that's the problems start happening. So if something's not working out for you, that's a very big sign that, hey, this is not working out for you. Try something else. What did you grow up on? Of course, not pizzas and hamburgers and all those things. What are some of the natural things? And I also like to tell people is like the further you can be away from processed food, again, you're moving more into like, what did nature have for you? Like instead of apple juice, grab an apple. Instead of orange juice, grab an orange.
Or you can squeeze the orange.
You can squeeze it.
Squeeze the.
If you freshly do it, it's fine.
Yeah.
But also the pulp, when you extract the juice out of it, it loses a lot of its fiber and some of the other potentials. And our gut bacteria use fiber to make short chain fatty acids like butyric acid and a lot of other these acids, which are amazing for our health. And one of the reasons why people's mental health is suffering is because people don't have fiber in their diet. Their gut bacteria, which is constantly communicating with the bacteria in their brain, that communication signal is messed up. So there is a lot of these things and it can be fixed. There's no one size fits solution, so it cannot be like one specific diet. There are some days of the year, or there are some days of the month, or some weeks where you feel like super bloated or acidic. That's the time have some more vegetables, and sometimes, and then see if 3 servings of meat is good for you, or 2 servings, or 1 serving. But general rule of thumb: don't go for processed food. Try to get organic food or grass-fed food, and if you can't, then avoid it. Safer option is fish.
Eat fish, but what about mercury?
Depends on the kind of fish. So here's an acronym for you and the audience. It's called the SMASH fishes.
SMASH.
S for salmon, M for mackerel, A for anchovies, SMAS, S for sardines, and H for herring. Herring. All of these fish, apart from salmon, they're not that big. Okay, so their lifespan is not so much. When you take fishes like tuna and halibut and all of these other fishes, they're huge, so they've lived for a long time and they have absorbed more toxins from the environment, and those toxins are in their fat cells. But when you compare eating fish versus eating like meat with zeranol or something else, then it's probably a safer option. Right now, there's nothing which is super safe, but also the way in the yogic culture, they look at so think about it this way, right? If I have a piece of apple here, this piece of apple doesn't look like any of us. But if we take a bite of this apple, in a few hours, it's going to be us. So we have this magic machine of transforming something that doesn't even look like a piece of us into something which is our flesh, our bones, vitamins, minerals. So there's this whole magic going on. In the yogic culture, they say, what are the foods that can assimilate into your body much easier? Every food right now, water has memory. This is well-established science out of Japanese researcher Izumi Emoto. The way you talk, the way the energies are around the water the water will store that energy and it will react in a different way. So you take 2 pieces of glass and you abuse one and then you show love to one, the loved one will be better. It'll be better for your health, because when it goes inside you, it goes in with certain information. And in the yogic sciences, they say that in the degree of evolution, so we turned from single cell organism to multi-cell organism, but it started with fish. So fish is in the lowest point of evolutionary science before than vegetables, but like fish, a live creature. So if you eat fish, then that fish hasn't taken up enough memory, hasn't absorbed a lot of things in this environment. So its conversion into you is much more easier, and you don't have a lot of they call it like mental stress, and all of these things can happen. If you look at large animals, they have had, and especially these feedlot animals, they have had like super stress. If you've ever heard, like there are YouTube videos on it, the moment the cow knows that it's going to slaughter for kilometers and kilometers, if you're around, you drive around Texas or you drive around all these places where there's farms and farms, you can hear their cries from 1 kilometer. It knows what's going to happen. So And this is the other angle to it, right? If water can contain memory, and you're going to eat something which has this ton of memory and suffering and all those things, will it have an effect on you? Maybe, maybe not, who knows? But it's an angle to consider. So a lot of the vegans, they consider that sort of an angle, and the environmental angle, which is environmental angle I don't really buy, but these are the kind of things in the ancient world, they look at all of these things. So they take it even a step further, like, okay, if I eat something, how fast can this be transformed in me? If you eat meat or meat-like products, and I eat them, right? It's not like I'm a guru trying to tell you this, but I'm just trying to show you a different perspective on how a different population sees this. If you take a vegetable, it'll take about like 24 hours. Fruit would take 12 hours, 6 to 12 hours to go through your alimentary canal and get digested, and then you poop it out. If you take vegetable, it'll take about 24 to 30 hours. If you take fish, it'll take like 34 to 48 hours. If you eat any kind of meat, it's going to take you almost 48, 60 hours plus. So that's the amount of time that meat, you eat something today and it's in your system. When are you going to get time to kind of like clean the system? Because humans, that's why intermittent fasting is so cool right now. Ayurvedic sciences have been telling this for thousands of years, but they never had $1 billion to like prove that if you give your body a break from eating, magic happens. So again, those are different angles to consider. But I would say, don't go into complexity. Eat fresh, eat organic, know where your food is coming from. Try not to eat any of the pesticide-rich foods or hormone stuff, and you'll get to know, because when you think of a steak, right? If you eat a 300-gram steak or a 500-gram steak, you'll pay X amount of money. You can actually eat a 200-gram steak, which is grass-fed. It's not going to cost you so much. You might not get so much, but that sort of like a proportion of the protein and the fats and all of those things will be much easily available for your body to digest. So this is another thing.
And just a question around, because you mentioned fish.
Yeah.
Do you think personally that the ocean is clean?
No. Nope.
Right. And on that basis, is fish still a good suggestion?
If you get wild caught fish, because again, we also know that protein is really important, and like protein from protein shakes is not the best source. So you have to get your proteins from somewhere. Most of the vegans will say that this, all of the grains and the beans and all those things are high in protein. Not really.
Really?
No, not really. Oh. It's not. I've had buckets of it. Not really, because you have to see they're high in protein. If you eat a lot, that a lot will give you gastric distress, and the lot also comes with a lot of carbohydrates, which you don't want.
Right.
Because we're talking about protein for protein. So now you're looking for
What about protein shake though?
Protein shake, it depends on like the company you choose, but artificial sweeteners, carrageenans, all of these letters which are like C1212, which you don't know, carcinogens, cancer-causing compounds, or other crappy stuff. But if you can find like a good source which has natural
grass-fed, maybe.
There are grass-fed protein shakes as well. There are vegan protein shakes as well. There are things which don't have a lot of like sweeteners, and
I'm curious to know, what does CJ take? What protein shake? Do you take any protein shake?
Yes, I've started again now because I'm trying to build some muscle.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the protein, but when I look behind it, it doesn't have any of this. It doesn't have any compound that you cannot spell. So like C121 or A or D567, all of these are chemical names. It doesn't have it. And instead of having like sucralose or all these other nasty sweeteners, it has stevia.
Stevia.
If a company, and I'm saying this because we're about to, with Biohacking, we're going to launch a supplement company as well. Secrets, you guys heard it here first. No one knows about it. And I know what it takes, what are the cost differences in starting a production line with like stevia or non-stevia. So the person who is actually producing the stevia is looking into a certain direction of health. So 9 times out of 10, that product might be much better than something else.
I see.
Yeah, okay. Because the other sweeteners are super cheap, and then you can produce so much out of it and then make a lot of money, but it's not really good for the consumer. And now consumers know it.
Interesting. I'm taking a vegan protein shake.
Yeah, I did it for a long time, like pea protein, mix of all of these kind of protein.
Right.
Good.
Rice as well.
Yeah, rice protein.
Right? But would you consider, the typical bodybuilding diet, which is, rice, broccoli, and chicken?
Chicken.
Yeah.
Broccoli and chicken.
Yeah. Would you consider that as a part of a normal diet? Healthy one?
What I have learned is everything is relative, right? So where's the vegetables coming from? Are those vegetables being frozen and then heated in a microwave with plastic? No. This is something that is
massive no.
Massive no,
but
right?
From frozen to normal, is that okay?
Frozen to normal is okay. That can actually save the phytochemicals and polyphenols in the vegetables. But then how do you cook it? That's the question.
Right.
Do you,
air fry?
Air frying is good. Yeah. Air frying is one of the best things to do. But a lot of the bodybuilders, they're actually, and I have been there, I've been into the bodybuilding game, and I'll tell you what I did.
Yeah, tell us.
I used to carry, wherever I used to go, I used to carry this big bodybuilder's bag with 6 to 7 different portions of chicken, broccoli, rice.
Right.
And same thing day in and day out, 6 of them, and then a few snacks here and there, some fruits. But I would be like, I would go anywhere, I'm like, hey, is there a microwave somewhere? Like,
yeah.
I'll just eat it. Because it's easier. It's easier to do that in an office. It's easier to do that in someone's place. You can go and be like, hey, can I get a pan? Because I need to, get some grass-fed better. So a lot of bodybuilders, because of having this notion of eating 6 times every 3 hours, convenience is the king.
Yes, it's true.
So that's what I did it for so many years. I was like, okay.
Were you happy with the results? Did it work?
It works on a aesthetic level, but we need to clearly define a lot of, when I was looking amazing in my life, I was the most sickest. And
you were the sickest?
I was the most sickest.
Oh.
And I speak to a lot of bodybuilders and a lot of these fitness competitors, like on stage, bikini models and stuff.
Yes.
Looking great is not the same as feeling great.
Right.
So when you're looking too good, then it comes in the cost of not feeling so good. No, there are exceptions. There are some people who are naturally wired for that. But those are the same guys who would lift up their shirts and show you a six-pack any time of the day. It's not like I need to do a contest and prep and water and all those things. Those guys are naturally built like that.
Right.
And for those guys, they would even have McDonald's and they'll still show you a six-pack.
All right, okay.
So those are the kind of guys which can naturally be there. But the other ones, like when you push yourself way too much, when you're doing all these dietings and all these supplements, it's not really good for you because we're not meant to be that way.
Right. Interesting. And I want to know as well, what made you stop from? I mean, you went through a period where you went into bodybuilding. Yeah. What made you go from bodybuilding to no more, or from that 3 to 5% to no more?
I mean, 3 to 5% was I think for 3 weeks. I was like, oh, I have to. And I have this strong will that, I can compartmentalize a lot of my emotions, and this way I can drive a lot of focus into a given thing. And I got there and I'm like, oh, perfect, I did it, and that's it.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah. But for a long period of time, I was using microwaves and doing all of those things. I didn't know any better.
Right.
It was as plain as that. I was looking good and I thought looking good is feeling good, which then I'm so grateful to now because I wasn't feeling good. It led me to explore, is there something more to health? Because I was fascinated by health. I was like, oh, I want to be the most healthiest person. I want to live for a long time, longevity, all of that stuff. And I'm like, okay, perfect. I can lift so heavy. I am young, right, at that point. I can lift heavy, I can move fast, I look fit, big biceps. That's it.
Right.
Oh, but I'm lonely. Oh, but I feel angry. Oh, but I'm a bit, envious or jealous. And no matter what comes in, I'm not really happy. The happiness has a rebound, which everyone has. But why do I go to a place like Thailand or some other parts of Southeast Asia, and there are people who don't even have 0.1% of what I have around me? Conveniences, luxuries, all of those things, but their smile, every second person's smile is bigger than mine, and anyone that I've seen in a metropolitan city. Why? I want to get that smile.
Probably from living a minimalistic life.
Living a life with more meaning. Not chasing, being in the environment, having a good laugh with your friends, not always comparing yourself, not always going for the next big thing. Because if you keep on chasing everything, and this is the entrepreneurial mindset, right? You're always
on the chase.
Exactly. You're not gonna go anywhere, because if you keep going in circles, you'll keep going in the same direction. And that's what most human beings do. We fixate ourselves on something, we keep on going in circles, and the end of the day, we're either burned out, fatigued, depressed, we have a divorce. We'll still make it. I still made it to the 3.5% body fat. Did it do me any good? Nothing. And you talk to millionaires right now, you talk to multi-billionaires, there are certain communities, and I listen to a lot of business podcasts and stuff like that. And if you're invited to a place where the average person's net worth is above 100 million, and the things that they're talking about are experiences. They're talking about, and of course you can say that they made it in life and all those things, but you get to a point where you realize like the main essence of life is the same when you get to 100 million, which is actually exploring life, finding out why you're here, helping other people, creating a community. And it's the same thing when you're super poor, because when you're poor, you don't have anything else. So you're just like, oh, how can I help the person? How can I, go and serve today? How can I do something else? So those guys you see are the most happiest. But in the middle, which is like 90, or no, not 90, if we like a large percentage of us young people having cars, having apartments, see the happiness in everyone's life? Not so much.
We're always on the chase.
Chasing.
We're always on the chase.
What are you chasing?
Right.
That's the thing. What are you chasing?
Paychecks.
But think about it this way.
Yeah.
So they did a study a few years ago in the US, and first it came to what do you need to be happy? So there's, of course, if you're broke, you need money. You're going to be chasing money. But how much money is enough for happiness? So the first round was like $50,000, and then the next one went to $75,000. Now inflation is rising, but a few years ago, let's stick to $75,000. If you have $75,000, if you earn $75,000 a year, then you have a house, you have a car, you can probably take one vacation per year. And up to that point, you're always going to be chasing is good, because that's like something essential. But above that, it doesn't really change your happiness. It doesn't.
Right.
Because those are the basic criterias which take you out of survival mode. But it doesn't get, even if you make like 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, a million, it's not going to get you thriving.
Interesting.
Yeah, and this is like
we all want to prove it to ourselves, so we all chase.
So it's more like, and I like the idea of chasing as well. Like, but you've got to create some distance from what you're chasing and yourself. So that's the thing. When I'm chasing, $100 million, I might get there. But in doing so, I shouldn't sacrifice my health. I shouldn't sacrifice the time with my family. I shouldn't sacrifice my friends. You know what's the one thing that people who are dying, like they've done a lot of research on this. When you're on your deathbed, there are 5 things that most of the people are complaining about. And they're like, I wish I took more chances. I wish I explored life. I wish I called my old friends. I wish I gave myself a chance to just voice my opinions and do what I really like to do. And the last one I don't remember. But all those things don't have to be in a future timeline. You don't have to be on your deathbed to realize it. And I'm saying, yeah, go for the chase. Like, go out, make money, because money is a great empowerment tool to build communities. You can do so much good in the world with that money. You can employ a person, someone gets a job, they support their family. It's a cycle. But don't lose yourself, because in the end, if you lose yourself, we've seen it and it'll always happen. And always remember, if you have a goal like chasing something, right? The process, it might make you grow in life, might get you good skills, you become more valuable, but the outcome is not going to give you lots of happiness. Yeah, your dopamine will spike for a few days, but everything that we want in life, right? The main things. If I asked you a question, if I told you you want something like, let's say, for your health, do you want something more pleasant or not very pleasant?
Pleasant,
right? So for your mind, you want something pleasant or not very pleasant?
Pleasant.
For your emotions, do you want something pleasant or not very pleasant?
Pleasant.
For your entire life energies, do you want something present or not present?
Of course, pleasant.
Pleasant, right? So and if you ask this to anyone, everyone wants all of these things. And to achieve all of these things, you don't need the outside forces. All of these things will come from inside. Everything comes from you as you are. Only success comes from the outside, and you need 1,000 or 1,000,000 forces in the world to coordinate for you to be successful. The market, the times that you're living in, recession, not recession, your company, your partner, your investment, all of these things are outside forces which are not really in your hand. But to be pleasant in your health, in your mind, in your emotions, in your life energies, and that's why I'd say it's your responsibility.
Interesting.
Think of it this way. In the 60s, there were cars where, you have to, these old cars where you turn on the engine, but you need two people to push the car and then it starts. And then everyone, like a lot of people in the world, they were like using their cars like this. It was like, you had to push it.
Right.
And now we have like, you can switch on the car from your remote control, or you just, there's a push start button. Before it was really push start. So that's how you should be in your life. Do you want other things, other people, other situations to actually push you for you to be ahead, or do you want to do it by yourself? You have to be self-start, not push start.
Let's talk about going into the future now.
Okay.
Now, moving on to AI and artificial intelligence coming into which is a trend, which was a big trend in 2023, and now it's everywhere.
Yeah, now more people are using it.
Every day. And so where do we see the convergence of AI and biohacking, if any? And do you see that being a trend, and do you see that being a better way to biohack yourself?
I think it's fascinating. I'm in the pro AI camp. Now, let's talk about biohacking or health in general. AI it's an empowering tool. Like money, it's an empowering tool. Now, if you wanted to understand any topic in the world, you can actually go to an AI like a ChatGPT and ask a few questions. You don't even need to know the prompts. You can just, because it's a large language model, you can just say like, hey, ChatGPT, can you tell me about this? There are too many metals in my environment, what can I do? And it's going to give you an answer. And you can also say, I don't know this, can you explain further? And it's going to explain that to you. So in terms of information, you have the world's information on your fingertip. This is amazing. Now let's talk about how it can help. It can help you understand what, in the most simplest language, in different languages around the world, it can help you understand complicated topics. Because sometimes I speak to people and they're like, it's too complex. I'm like, okay, perfect. Now with AI, you can actually simplify all of these things and teach it to a 10-year-old in a story form. So can you imagine how can we empower the younger generations? You can talk to them about business, finance, money, whatever, crypto, anything that you can, anything that you have, it can explain them in a nicer way. It's also really good for like tracking a lot of things. So back in the day, this is why a lot of people made a lot of mistakes in nutrition. Now I'm talking about governments and policy leaders, because they had huge data, but they didn't have the computational power of analyzing that data. And now with AI, we can actually pull up the records of the last 100, 200 years from World War I, World War II, and we can see a trend. It has that sort of a computational power to show you that, hey, looks like this trend is going this way. And this is something that you should look at. Heart disease is going up, testosterone going down. Why? Because of X, Y, and Z factors.
Right.
So it's so empowering for decision makers. Even like we are working on a project where we are going to be taking the data from our consumers, so like people who are using our products, all of that stuff, and then putting it into like a big information, big data system, and then giving people personalized things depending on their age, their gender, for women, which part of the cycle they're in, all of that stuff. We're in my health coaching business, we're developing AI models which can actually help people on our program and certain things because are very relative to them. I can't say more, but like that's the kind of application. So now you can democratize the whole health information thing, which back in the day you would have to really be sick and go to a doctor. And I was sick, but I couldn't even go to a doctor because I couldn't afford it. But now on the internet is for free. ChatGPT 3.5 is for free.
Right.
And imagine all throughout life, all throughout life for generations. People had this unique ability to like study and memorize, and then memory would get them either a good job or attention or something. So let's break it down. You read 5 to 6 books completely and you memorize it, you become a PhD. You read one book completely, you become a religious leader, and then the whole world is gone crazy about you. But now your phone, the Galaxy has a Galaxy AI now. It can.
It does. I saw.
So it can have millions of books around the world, millions at your fingertips, and it can do. You can train it to do certain tasks as well. So I think the future is amazing. It's for the people who want to, again, grow in life. Those are the guys that should take advantage of this, and it's so easy now. I think it's one of the best times that we're living in, because imagine the kind of people that wake up and go to work and they don't like their work. Gallup did a study, over 75% of Americans, they don't say that they don't like their work, they hate their work. They hate going to work. That's why thank God it's Friday. Because they can't deal with all these things. And then depression is going up and all of these things are going up. But imagine a world where if you didn't like doing something, you can auto-delegate that task to an AI, and the AI will do a better job than you, and you can focus on something that you really like. Whether it's writing a book, whether it's singing a song, whether it's going for drama, whether it's going to the gym. So AI will actually empower you to do something that will actually fulfill you in life.
Right. I think we can agree it is an empowering tool.
Yeah.
You can use it for good, but you can also use it for bad.
Like anything in life.
Like anything in life.
Everything in life has a neutral force.
Right.
It's just how do you employ that force, and you use it for good or you use it for bad, but it'll always be neutral. Anything in life is mostly
Because you could learn how to build a bomb.
Yeah, you can.
Right.
And I mean,
or build a gun.
Even before AI, you could just Google it.
Yeah, that's true. But the AI will make it easier now.
Yeah, exactly. Now it'll give you like pictures, steps to do it.
Oh man.
Yeah, but again, this is where individual empowerment and common sense and all of these things come in place, because you can use.
You risk your life going to prison, you dying, or
exactly. You can do everything.
Yeah.
You can do anything. And that's where responsibility comes in. Where do you want to take yourself?
Yeah,
you want to use a tool which is at your disposal to. So, I was listening to an interview with Tom Bilyeu and Peter Diamandis. Okay, and these guys were discussing about AI, and they said that the first $1 billion company took 10,000 employees to get there. Then, few years later, or like few decades later, one of the other $1 billion companies took 1,000 employees to get there. They're estimating, and these guys are high in the world of business. They're talking to so many people, great podcasts, all of that stuff. They're estimating the next $1 billion company will be started by 3 people.
Really?
Yes.
Because of AI?
Because of AI.
Of course.
Because of all the things you can do with AI.
Automation.
Can you just imagine that?
Yeah.
From 10,000 to 1,000 to 3 people.
It's a game changer.
It's amazing. It's like the best time to be alive. I think there is no generation on this planet who's had the life, the comfort, the ease. Now with AI,
so
changes.
we know you're pro camp. We're gonna wrap up now. But what are your thoughts now on implantations, or like implants? Sorry.
Ooh, I'm
machine
scared of them.
implants. You know, where there's a dystopian view that we may become cyborgs.
Yeah, Elon Musk is trying to do that, right, with the Neuralink project.
Right, Neuralink. That's right. You see. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think I don't know much about this topic, but I think this defies the law of nature, and anything that defies the law of nature will not be as good as we think it would be.
But do you think you could hack it by like introducing more testosterone, getting rid of toxins? Do you think that could work with microchips? Like activating cells?
We don't have enough data. Like no matter how much molecular hydrogen you put into your system, we don't have enough data. So
could we have robotic cells? Maybe inside us, robotic.
Inside us, no, but they're building like the whole robotic ecosystem.
Right.
So I would like a short take of mine would be that this is super experimental. I would not sign up to be a part of the experiment, because I also think that we're not just meat suits. There's not just meat suits with some heart and brain, but we have an energetic element to us, we have a spiritual element to us. There's things that go beyond just flesh and bones.
Right.
And those are the things that I prefer to focus on, which might get disrupted with the whole chip thing. But who knows, We'll see in the future.
I hope we can be optimistic about it. Robotics. You mentioned robotic cells won't work in the bloodstream. Do you think that's not possible?
It is possible, and I think a lot of companies are already experimenting with it. How many human trials have there been? I have no idea.
That's true.
You could do it with animals, but again, animals can't express their pain so much, and they cannot express if they're mentally feeling something, and their lifespans are shorter. So I would say we just have to be a witness and see it. It doesn't excite me so much because, having a chip and just memorizing a few things, I would rather have an iPhone and then have it memorize most of the things.
You won't even need an iPhone, it's be in your eye, right?
Yeah, exactly. With the Vision Pro. Yeah. So I think there are better ways to do it. We can take advantage of technology.
But then what about the radiation, in your eye?
I haven't tried it yet, but I'm sure anything that sends or receives something will have a
radiation, right?
Will have like a radiation effect.
Yeah. Although it's inevitable.
It's already there.
Right.
It's already there. Although maybe next time I'm here or next time in a few months, I will talk to you about a solution that my company is already working on. I cannot disclose it right now. That will
to radiation.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic!
So yeah, we're back in the works. We're already trying to solve that problem.
That's a perfect way to end this podcast.
Amazing.
Actually, before we do, what's next for you going forward? What's next for you for 2024? Your company. What's next for you?
Yeah. So for those of you who didn't know, I run a biohacking company here. We do things like red lights, infrared saunas, ice baths. We also have a biohacking center in DIFC called Beyond Limits. Okay. And I also do a health coaching program called Young with CJ, www.youngwithcj.com, where I have basically brain dumped everything that I know about all of my experience in like a 3-month course that people can go through. And so that's keeping me busy, but mostly I'm really driven by our massively transformative purpose, which is touching 1 million lives by 2035 across diverse communities all over the world. We want to make a positive difference. And if someone who's listening to this, help us share the message, help us try to, get out to more people. We just want to, and the thing is, like right now, cost of technology is high. When the first phone came in, it was super high. But the more and more people, and this is why I come to podcasts, this is why I like talking to people, because the more awareness we build, it's demand and supply. The more the demand for something goes up, that's the same time the supply goes up, and then the price go down. And this is what I am hoping for biohacking in the future. Because if I could give everyone a molecular hydrogen bottle or give every kid a blue light blocking glasses, things will become much easier for them. And to do this, more and more people need to demand these services, so then we can use the law of economics and make it available for everyone.
Right. So and accessible and affordable.
Exactly.
Right.
For me, I feel like the government should just give these things, not like my product.
Should make water free as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a human right. I mean, now everything's privatized, everything's business, because money is what runs the world.
Yeah. But we have to kind of also realize that this is the wave that's on us, and if you're a surfer, you better ride the wave or you'll be crushed.
Or you'll be crushed, right?
So if it's this way, let's make sure the only way to ride this wave is making yourself more valuable, providing value to the world, coming up with new solutions so you grow your business, you kind of create this whole ecosystem that not only drives your business, but also the rest of the world, because we keep complaining about things that are going wrong in the world, but we can also take charge and say like, oh, perfect, if this is a problem, let me dedicate 20% of my time to build something. And I'm not talking about us because we're still super young in our careers, but people at a certain stage in their life. That's why Peter Diamandis, he does this, I can't remember, he does this X Prize thing, $100 million X Prize to reduce carbon footprint. Now they're going to different countries. Like all of these things, there are people out there and they're taking responsibility. They're like, okay, perfect. If we can incentivize people to see a positive change, it would be good for everyone.
Wonderful.
You might not be able to see it. It might happen way after you, but it still meant something.
I really want to continue this, but wonderful.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's a great way to end, because I know there's going to be a part 2 or part 3 to this. There's so much we can talk and pick your brains about, but we do have to leave it there.
Of course.
So much insight in one podcast. So I'm really thankful to you.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for staying with us. I hope this was insightful, because I definitely found it. You can find all this information, like he said, we'll put it in the description.
Thank you.
Your website, your profiles. Check out his page. And you're also giving, every day, I mean, I see your content.
Yeah.
You're giving information out about biohacking skills, tips, and tricks. So go visit his page. Thank you once again. This is Adel, Traders Brawl. And we'll see you next time. Cheers.
See you guys.